Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Wednesday, June 26th, 2024. Happy Debate Eve. Today marks the day before the first presidential debate of the 2024 election cycle, one of two debates that will take place and the earliest in United States history presidential debate. Now, what we are talking about today is about how this debate could change the trajectory of the presidential race ultimately in a very substantial way. Tomorrow's debate will likely be one of the most watched television spectacles in quite some time, especially related to politics. Far more viewers than any State of the Union, far more viewers than any speakership vote, and potentially far more viewers than the viewers in the 2020 Democratic and Republican national conventions, and potentially even those presidential debates. And this matters as we go into a very contested election season where the national landscape seems to suggest that the 2024 election is amongst the closest we have seen in a very long time, if not the closest in the 21st century. Today on 538, President Biden has a 51% chance of victory. That's compared to Donald Trump's 49%, a very narrow advantage for the incumbent president that is entirely reliant on a bump in national polls by the time between today and Election Day. But the debate itself is positioned in a way that is so early on in the election cycle. The debate is one that many people are looking at, and it was entirely something that the Biden campaign wanted to do this early on. And the calculus for that was that looking at the national head-to-head polling data, Donald Trump led Joe Biden for a very extended period of time. But that's because both candidates here are receiving roughly 41% or less, meaning that roughly 18% of the national electorate is either backing another candidate or entirely undecided. And it brings in this idea that there may be third-party candidates, people like Cornel West and RFK Jr. and Jill Stein. And the idea here is that an early campaign forces people to look at it from a lens of Trump versus Biden rather than a multi-way race. And so Democrats really took a risk on making this an early stage debate, something that was taking place in June before either of the two conventions. This has never happened in United States history. And so what I'm expecting from this debate tomorrow is a whole wild number of things. One, we're going to be closely watching how is Biden performing and how is Trump performing. Well, on one end, it says here on the CBS News poll, Democrats want Biden to be more forceful. A lot of them see him as more laid back and timid and unwilling to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump. Republicans want Trump to be polite. What we're finding here is that there are two expectations on both sides of the aisle. But Democrats want a forceful Biden, Republicans do not want a forceful Trump. And maybe it speaks to some of the strengths that we've seen for Biden when he does actually say things like, "Will you shut up, man?" And when Kamala Harris says, "Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking," that's the type of energy it seems Democrats want from the Biden-Harris camp. On the Republican side, I think they've gotten far too much of that. And so it's a very interesting duality here, and neither side might be happy with the way the debate ends up, but this genuinely could be changing the way the race is viewed by the American public. Now, I talked about this very early on about how Biden set the terms for this debate, and I genuinely believed no matter what, this debate was going to be won by President Biden. And the reason for that was for a multitude of things. One, the early debate ends up helping Biden practically no matter what. When voters have to think about things about being a Trump versus Biden lens, we have found consistently that when leaners are pushed to make a decision, almost always Biden makes increases in support. Regardless of that, too, it is the idea that we have found that RFK Jr. support is pulling equally from Trump and Biden, and at baseline, both candidates will see an increase because of this debate. It is going to increase the general election season, and Democrats have already won a race against Donald Trump with President Biden. On the other end of things, the Trump camp has made Joe Biden seem, quite frankly, senile in terms of the way that the Trump team paints him. That is a problem for Donald Trump, because what it does here is that it lowered expectations so much that for the first time ever in U.S. history for Donald Trump, the first time in his 3 elections, Trump is now expected to perform the best out of either of the two candidates. Back in 2016, it was very different. Hillary Clinton was very much expected to win the election, win the debate, trounce Donald Trump in every way possible. In 2020, the plurality of voters there said Biden will win the debate. He is expected to perform best against Donald Trump. But it is because the expectations have been lowered so tremendously, Trump is now favored to win the first presidential debate. And if Biden does even marginally better than what people are expecting, if he stands his ground, if he looks alive, if he looks well, these are the things that the Trump team is trying to paint Joe Biden out to not be. That he's not all put together, that he's not ready to lead this country for 4 more years. The way the Trump team has really painted Joe Biden is something that cannot allow them to win this debate. Because the expectations were too low in 2020, according to their team, which is why they tried so much in the past 3 days to push this conspiracy theory that Biden will be on drugs. The reason being, they saw the State of the Union, and they were terrified. Biden was electric. He was fiery, and Democrats across the country were riled up and ready to vote for the first time in a while. And Democrats knew that type of fiery Biden can trounce Donald Trump at any debate. And back in 2020, Biden brought it all to the debates. Biden won both debates. The only difference between this election and that one is that the American public was not as in tune to these Republican attacks, that Biden is not all put together, that Biden isn't present enough to win this election, to win for the sake of the nation. There were so many ways the past 4 years have impacted Biden's image amongst the average voter, and that lowered expectations tremendously to a point where now they're making the same exact mistake they made in 2020, and 3 days of changing tune isn't enough to sway the American public. And so tomorrow, should Joe Biden hold his ground, everyone will be shocked, because the idea has been pushed by the right, by Fox News and Newsmax and One American News Network, that Biden is not mentally fit. And the moment that he displays any type of cognitive ability, and he will, and we know this about the president, and he will, this entire narrative collapses. If Biden is put together in front of 70 million viewers, same number from 2020, a little bit lower than 2016, that's good news for the Biden camp. Why? Because Biden is the one who everyone is looking to see how will he perform. It's no longer about Trump, who in 2016 was the entertainment of the race, was someone who people looked to for zingers and laughter, and he wasn't a serious candidate until he was. Then in 2020, everyone looked to him and said, "You're already losing this election. Biden is trouncing you. Let's see what you have to say." But this time, it's entirely different. This is the first time either Democratic ticket, Biden or Clinton, any Democratic ticket against Trump, has gone into an election being down nationwide in a head-to-head matchup. The first time ever. Trump has never led Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden on the national average, especially for not this period of time. I mean, this is unlike anything we've ever seen. And so genuinely, I say this with full meaning. If Biden just shows up and is able to get through the debate, he will be perceived as the winner. There is not going to be as much of a narrative here that Biden is somehow underestimating, or somehow that Biden was overestimated, right? There is not going to be this main takeaway that we built up Biden so much and, we built up da-da-da-da from the Trump team. No, they tore him down. We tore him down. The Trump team is going to be realizing, we made this mistake in 2020. We are making it again in 2024. And that's why they tried to shift. I think what we will find for September is that the Trump team will try to be immediately on the offense. Biden is on drugs. Biden doesn't know what he's doing. This is the way that Republicans are going to try to frame it, because it's the only way they can preempt any type of strong performance from the Biden team. It is the only way, because you've told voters for this whole period of time something that just simply was not true, that Biden is not put together, that Biden isn't mentally fit. There also are Democrats who lean in to some of these things that are said by right-wing media, by right-wing actors, potentially even some arguments from the left that were given up in 2020. Remember the debates with Biden in the 2020 Democratic primary? Democrats from the left, Bernie Sanders supporters, Elizabeth Warren supporters, were saying Biden wasn't mentally fit to be president. Then he won the nomination, and everyone downplayed his expectations in the primary, and he ended up doing very well. He won the debates and won the election. This time around, it could have an even bigger effect. Think about it this way. You are the average voter, the median voter, who's been tuning into this election as far as 2 weeks ago. Not too heavily, but summer's coming around. You're getting a few mailers. You're seeing a few ads. You're starting to be more present and aware of this general election season. You know the options are Trump and Biden, but you really don't wish they were the options. You wish they were somebody else. You wish that there was an entrance of a third-party candidate. And you go on and watch the debate to make an informed decision about the election. First thing you notice is that it's only Trump and Biden on the debate stage. Boom. You already axe out a considerable portion of the electorate that might be thinking about voting for RFK Jr. or voting for Jill Stein because, evidently, if they're not on the stage, perception is everything, they don't have a chance at winning the election. Then you move down to Biden. You've been watching TikToks. You've been watching Instagram Reels. You've been on Facebook. All you've seen, constant outpour. Biden has dementia. Biden is not fit. Biden is not competent. But then you see him perform well. If they were to watch the State of the Union, same type of a reaction. If that's to happen, or even maybe not well to say that Biden defeated Trump heavily, but maybe in a way that shows that Biden is in fact there, can articulate his points, doesn't have these senior moments that Republicans have been predicting he's going to have. Then you start to question other things you've heard about the president. Okay, maybe he is fit enough to hold this office for 4 more years. Maybe Biden should be president again. And there are plenty of voters out there that begrudgingly voted for Trump in 2016, begrudgingly voted for Biden in 2020, that could begrudgingly vote for Biden again in 2024, depending on how this debate goes. Because this is how you shape a national narrative. Tomorrow will be one of the most watched television events in U.S. politics history in a very long time. It's going to be big. And depending on how each candidate performs, we could genuinely see some change in direction in some of these battleground state polls, in some of these national polls. President Biden could blow Donald Trump out of the water and receive a major bump nationwide. But he probably will still see some type of marginal benefit by even showing up in the first place. Because again, Trump is the predicted winner for the first time ever, which means he's going to be combating high expectations. And if he performs more poorly, if he gets off track, if he goes on tangents, if he starts talking about sharks or water pressure or whatever it might be, that's going to be damaging. Because voters are here to listen to the candidates. And I think they're here to listen for a reason as to why they should vote for either of the two that maybe many people just don't want either of them to be president at all. This is an election about comparison. It's about a lesser of two evils. And while Democrats didn't win that fight in 2016, Hillary Clinton is a very different candidate than Joe Biden is. Joe Biden is fundamentally a stronger candidate and has had stronger election results to prove it. Strong midterm results, strong presidential election results, and that's why this election, despite it again being a lesser of two evil situation, is not a repeat of the 2016 election. It's the exact reason why I do believe today Joe Biden would win the presidential election against Donald Trump. Because there's something about this race that feels very different. The polls might show that Donald Trump is in a better position, but a lot of other metrics seem to suggest otherwise. Special elections, regular elections, fundraising numbers, as of recent, not as strong, but in the battleground states, more Democratic donors for Biden than 2020, less Republican donors for Donald Trump. More money coming from more concentrated pockets, more billionaires getting involved in the race for Trump, more millionaires getting involved in the race for Trump. But Biden is doing better in terms of overall grassroots organizing. You are finding that there are some heavy indicators here that Biden, in fact, is holding on strong. A new Marquette University poll came out today in Wisconsin that shows Biden up by 2 points. Same exact margin that we saw roughly in 2020. That's good for Joe Biden. It shows that there is something changing about the state of the race. A month ago, Marquette University had Trump up over a point in the state of Wisconsin. So you're talking at least a 3-point shift from the last poll here. And that's in line with a lot of what we've been seeing in some of these battleground states. But it's that momentum that can be continued. Continued that could boost up Biden, even marginally. It matters, because the 2020 election came down to margins and came down to exceptionally narrow races. Watch the debate tomorrow and watch what we see happen as a response. How does the public take it? How do voters take it? How does the media take it? And how do the campaigns take it? Because that will tell us everything. There are going to be so many different ways this debate is going to be analyzed, and I'm so fascinated to see what genuinely happens between now and November. And this debate can make a major impact in favor of Biden, in favor of Trump. It's a question now of time telling us, who's going to do well, who's going to win. And it's going to be very interesting to watch this happen live and see what the impact is. And I would be very interested to see if any polls shift in the next coming weeks. I'd bet money that they would, but only time will tell, and the polls will show us a very interesting scenario and circumstance in a few weeks from now to help us better understand the state of the race 3 weeks after the debate. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the top of your screen, there's a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the right, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2024 presidential election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.